So yesterday I did a video where basically I stand by what I said there, and that is the fact that I don't think a strike will happen because I honestly believe a deal will be made within within the time frame, basically at the 11th hour at the latest, in my opinion. But when you really look at it and you read some articles out there, even if the IATSE goes on strike, the union members across the country go on strike, should they decide to, because there will be some that may not decide to go on strike and feel like, hey, this is just stupid, and let's just see if they make a, let's just see if they, work something out, but at the same time still continue to work, because there will be, those that are part of the union will be like, yeah, we get where you're coming from. We support it, but I still want to work. But I still want to put money on the table for my family. So there might still be union members that will work despite other union members being on strike. And here's the thing, the AMPTP, like I said, depending on who you believe and the various articles you read about this potential strike, that they have come out and said that some of the things that the union is saying, the union of the IATSE is saying, is not entirely true. Like basically they're not denying that some of what they're saying is true, but what they're also saying is that some of the statements they're making are false, like they're exaggerated. Like it's not entirely the truth, but some of it is. And again, depending on who you believe, this is an interesting, intriguing situation that's going on right now, because it's basically you got one side, or you basically have both sides trying to work out a deal before the deadline, which I think they will, like I said. But you basically have one side in the AMPTP that is essentially calling the bluff of the IATSE. They're essentially calling the bluff. Like, even though they're negotiating with them to work out a deal, they're calling their bluff. In a sense, they're also calling their bluff because there are people in that studio, in the AMPTP, the studios and all that, that don't think a strike's going to happen. That even though the signs are out and ready to be passed out and everything, or the signs are made, I should say, and ready to be passed out, they still don't think a strike will happen. And why? Because they feel that what these union members, what these employees of the IATSE value more is money. And they believe, from their point of view, that they're not going to want to risk that. That this strike situation is not going to happen the way, people are saying it's going to happen, but it still will, but not to an extent that it's going to hurt them financially. And that there will be, as I said, some union members that will still work because they'll feel like a strike is stupid. And again, if you think the AMPTP will let a strike, whether it's a full-on strike or a half a strike or whatever, halt production on a lot of those shows and movies, according to some articles, the IATSE has another thing coming, because there's a good chance, that like any job out there, they will have temporary workers on standby, that they will make phone calls to those that want to work, that want to make money, that despite the work hours and, lunch period hours and all that, and breaks, that they will have no problem coming in and working for 16, 18-hour days because they're making money. They're making money. They're making more money than what they are right now, probably sitting at home or working on meaningless, commercial jobs here and there. They'll be making money, and that's all they care about. And that's one thing that the IATSE, has to, and I'm sure they are, taking into consideration. Like, hey, we might go on strike, but that's not going to stop the studios from continuously working on their movies and their shows, because they'll bring in people to fill the void. And that will be the studio's way, as well as the AMPTP's way of saying, hey, you don't think you're replaceable? Guess what? You are. And they'll bring in these temporary workers just to prove that. Even if a deal is reached and they're able to bring back the regular workers, even at, that's ending the strike should it happen, bringing in the temporary workers during the strike to help continue production and all that, that's their way of basically sending a message of, hey, you don't think you're replaceable, you are. And oh, by the way, you going on strike's not going to stop us or intimidate us. You know, it's not going to bully us into giving you what you want because, you know, we can move on without you. And that potentially is what could happen, if not literally could happen. So when you really think about it, you know, it's a back and forth battle. It's a back and forth battle of negotiating as to, you know, what they can come to in the middle of a reasonable deal. But what do you guys think? What do you think of this scenario? Do you think a strike will happen? I'm not saying it won't, because I do believe they have a right to strike. They do have a right to strike to get what they want, to get the reasonable rest they need, to get the reasonable lunch hours they need, to get the reasonable breaks they need, to get everything that they are owed, you know, as we speak, right now, that they are owed due to all the risks they take on these production sets and everything. You know, I'm totally in agreement with that. But what I'm trying to look at is the fact that if you think a strike is going to intimidate, according to some of these articles you read, it's going to intimidate the AMPTP and the studios associated with them into stopping production, then those that are going to go on strike have to think otherwise, because it won't. And also, I believe, like I said, I don't think there will be a lot of the members of the IATSE that will go on strike. I think some of them will continuously work for the companies, for the studios, because they'll feel a strike is unnecessary, that it's basically meaningless. You can't tell me that some people that work for Kellogg's and John Deere right now, or you can't tell me that entire line's on strike, because it's not. Most of them are still working because they feel a strike is stupid. And it just shows that, hey, you know, it just shows that, hey, yeah, you're standing up for your rights, but are you really getting angry for the fact that, hey, they're not giving you what you want right away? You know, you can't wait, you can't be patient. So, yeah, there are various strikes that have been out and about to where people will strike, you know, against their company, but against those they work for, but there will be those that, you know, they work with that'll still be working because they feel striking stupid. But again, what do you guys think? Do you think, you know, do you think basically, you know, the strike will happen? Do you think a deal will be made? And do you think even if a strike happens that the studios and the AMPTP will bring in temporary workers to fill the void, as well as send the message of, hey, you don't think you're replaceable, you are? What are your thoughts? Comment down below, live chat during the premiere, like the video, check me out at my Teespring store and my Patreon at BW Roses discussions on all the audio podcast locations except for Pandora, as well as check me out at BW Roses on Vimeo. But until next time, guys, I will talk to y'all later.